Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of League Unlocked. My name is Eric. Thank you guys, as always, for hanging out as we continue to look at the world's action. It is Elimination Day, week 2 of group stage action, and after Fun plus Phoenix just barely squeaked out as that top seed in Group B, it is Group A's turn to hit the rift. Don't ask me why or how Riot comes up with the ordering of these teams playing, because it feels like it's been 3 weeks since Group D actually played on stage, but whatever. Riot, your rules are your rules. It is Group A, G2, one of only 2 teams to start off 3-0, see if they can have a perfect 6-0 run and be the only European team or only non-Korean team to ever complete that feat. But things started off with Griffin versus C9. This was the Yuumi Garen versus Sona Tom Kench matchup last time. A huge game for implications, because if Cloud9 wins it, both teams are tied at 2-2 and things get very spicy in the group. The pick ban in this one, there was no Garen Yuumi and there was no Sona Tom Kench. Thank the Lord. 2 actual marksmen in the bottom lane. It's still Sword, and he gets a carry in that Akali matchup. And early on, it was Tarzan who got the Elise, and poor old Kale. Niski alone in the mid lane. 3 members come. Lahenz is just there for a high five, but first blood goes over to Griffin, and then around the Scuttler. Svenskeren back in for this, by the way. MVP of the LCS. He does get the steal on the Scuttle, but him and Licorice are just not at all on the same page. They just take a bunch of free autos. Licorice doesn't even bother flashing. That 2v2 is a disaster, and it's Sword who grabs the kill, and that started the snowball. It's pretty much a free lane for Akali when you get that ahead. The man who's been heavily criticized gets the solo kill onto Licorice, and then all of a sudden we're watching a clutch gaming game, because it's all about the Rift Herald right around 10 minutes. Cloud9, for whatever reason, just decided, let's go all in, boys. Let's contest it. And as you can imagine, things go horribly, and I do mean horribly, wrong for them, as Griffin is just cleaning up on all sides of the fight. Ends up being a bunch of kills, 4 over to their side, as Sword and Chovy eventually dive. Cloud9 would get a kill to their name, but almost immediately afterwards they push way too hard to try and get an outer turret, and they don't even get it down. That is a maximum feels bad, man, as Sword grabs a couple of more kills. Now 11-1 in favor of Griffin, and when you have a gold lead that is that disgusting, yeah, you're gonna win a lot of these team fights pretty darn easily, as Viper on that Xayah grabs a triple. Everybody dies for Cloud9, 16-1. That one kill was the only thing preventing a perfect game here in this one. This was never in doubt, and the debut game here in week 2 for Cloud9. We know what North America does in that second week of action at Worlds, and it's usually lose, but not this badly. Considering how close the first matchup was here between these guys back in week 1, completely different run at things here for Griffin, who moved to 3-1, and Cloud9 fall down to 1-3, and almost before the day even starts, their hopes and dreams of getting out of groups take a huge hit. It is now out of their hands. They need G2 to go 0-3 to force a tiebreaker, really go 0-4 if they want to get out of groups. So I mean, maybe that happens. There's crazier things. Is there crazier things? No, that would probably be the craziest thing to ever happen at a World Championship. But G2 were right on the rift there for Game 2 against Hong Kong Attitude. And you remember how the early game went when they matched up before. HKA kind of gave it to G2 and looked to be in the driver's seat before one team fight turned everything around for G2. Still in search of that perfect 6-0 group stage. Hong Kong Attitude trying to avoid yet another 0-6 run for the LMS. They get the Yuumi, but there's no Garen to go with it. It is Ezreal in the bottom lane, Kale in the top lane for Wonder, and the Kale pick, you didn't see it work out too well for Cloud9 in the first game, and here Again, it's not going to work out too well for Wonder. He has no flash. It was just about to come up. First blood goes over to Crash on that Lee Sin, and they gave a lot of attention to that Kayle, as most teams do for such a hyper-scaling pick that is borderline useless. Very early on in the game, he goes down again, but then Unified just decides, he just walks into 3 members of G2. Jankos comes in on that Olaf, pops the Ragnarok, and absolutely rocks everybody on HKA to grab a triple kill. Meanwhile, this is the G2 special. Simultaneously across the entire map, Caps gets the solo kill onto 3Z, and all of a sudden, G2 have a pretty sizable gold lead, and then it's their bread and butter. We get to see some skirmishes from them. Mickey X on the recon with a nice engage, and we know how good Jankos is at stealing kills on the Olaf. To be fair, he earned a lot of these. The nice flash feather pull from Perks for a few more kills. G2 immediately run that one down to the Baron buff, and all of a sudden, they're into the base. They're cracking inhibs left, right, and center. They do get a nice engage onto Caps, and he is going to get blown up, but Perks, Mr. Consistent so far here at Worlds, still there to output some insane amounts of damage on that Fed Xayah. Jankos does his thing on the Olaf to steal a few more kills. The Rise goes down, but it doesn't matter. Rise, by the way, or Caps, was really holding things together in that mid lane and just exerting so much pressure on that pick. He had a fantastic performance, and now 4-0 for G2. With one win, they eliminate both Hong Kong Attitude and Cloud9 from the World Championship. They still have games to be played, but G2 lock up a spot in quarterfinals, and they lock up a spot for Griffin. It's just, where are they going to finish, either first or second, as the day goes on? But Cloud9 and Hong Kong Attitude, again, they had a decent early game, but as soon as that mid game rolled around, it was G2 who came out in full force to take that one. And for Hong Kong Attitude, they're right back on the Rift against Griffin. They didn't have much of a turnaround, and now it's all about Griffin. They play G2 on the last game of the day, so G2 and Griffin both just looking to win the remainder of their games to play for that coveted first seed in that final round of action, and HKA just looking to avoid another goose egg for the LMS. And the last time these guys played, it was that level 1 Scion Q where it went disastrously for Griffin, but they get the Garen Yuumi versus the Xayah Rakan, and it's another Camille mid for Chovy. And Sword and Tarzan early on should be, great engage. Easy kill on the gangplank. 3Z should be going down, but watch Sword cancel not 1, not 2, but 3 auto attacks, and with that huge minion wave, 3Z turns around a 2v1 to get a double kill onto the Griffin top side of the map, and all of a sudden, this gangplank, who should not be winning the matchup against Jace, is absolutely steamrolling. A new game, another disastrous early start for Griffin, but in similar fashion to the first time these two teams met, Griffin quickly is able to turn this around, especially when they get to high roll on a lot of these Drakes. They would get a double Infernal to start the game, and then Hong Kong Attitude go a little bit too hard in that mid lane to try and take down the outer turret. The Garen Yuumi just jumps in there. We've seen Yuumi topping the damage charts countless times. Halo Sang was leading the entire tournament in damage done before he had that disastrous Blitzcrank game. Griffin aren't done here, by the way. For some reason, Mission decides to stick around on that Syndra pick to try and defend that outer turret. It ends up being 2 more kills going over to Griffin as the Garen keeps on spinning to win. The Lee Sin does survive, but that's an outer that's going to go down. Baron control for Griffin, and now watch Viper and Lahens. That is a 2v4 where Garen is Beyblading around with the cat hanging out, and there's just 2 members of Griffin the entire time that stay on the Baron in a fully legitimate 3v5. 3 kills go over to Griffin. And I think it's safe to say that Season 9 Worlds will be remembered as the Garen Yuumi World Championship. Season 7 was Ardent Censor. This is the Goomy. I hate that pick. I hate that combo. The cat should be banned for the remainder of the tournament, and maybe just disabled. Just don't have her there at any chance. Griffin goes to 4-1, and they will be playing against G2 later in the day for that first seed. Hong Kong Attitude dropped to 0-5. They still have one more game at the World Championship against Cloud9 to avoid that 0-6 dream or nightmare, depending on how you're looking at it. Coming up after the break, it is the NA versus EU rivalry back on the menu, except this one really has absolutely no meaning or stakes. What is up, down, and sideways, ya beauties? The action continues from the World Championship group stage, Group A, and usually NA versus EU on an international stage. Oh, baby, it's incredibly hyped. The best of the West, the two fan bases going head to head. Unfortunately, in this edition of G2 versus Cloud9, you have the 1-3 North American squad versus the 4-0 EU team. And yes, Cloud9 could kind of play spoiler in this one and avoid G2 ever even getting the luxury of a tiebreaker, but really, G2's already locked for quarterfinals. Cloud9 is already eliminated, but it's still NA versus EU, and both teams still playing seriously. Sven Skaren still in the lineup, the MVP from the LCS. You thought you might have kind of a fun game, but both teams still taking it somewhat seriously, at least in the pick ban phase. You get a Caitlyn in the bottom lane for Sneaky versus the Blitzcrank for Mickey, and Niski gets the Cassiopeia versus the Syndra of Caps. And you remember in Cloud9's game against Griffin, it was the Scuttler that kind of just cost them the game. And again, it's Sven Skaren contesting. Licorice is a level 2 Kayle, flashing to do absolutely nothing, really. This is a 2v3 in favor of Cloud9, and this actually looks like they are it legitimately looks like they're just throwing their lives away. 3 kills over to G2 in a 2v3. This game looked like it should have been completely over, but G2 got a little bit too excited, I think, and hey, it's the solo queue syndrome when you get too big of a lead that you inevitably start throwing, and that's exactly what G2 was doing. Wunder was eventually 4-0 and disgustingly fed on the rise before he died 5 times in a row. It's a bit of that hero play. You get a little bit too ahead and you're trying to do 2v3s or 1v4s and it ends up not working. But luckily for G2, Caps was having none of it. It was very much Claps still in this game and not Craps on that Syndra in an incredibly chaotic and hectic game. He somehow managed to not die throughout all of it on the Syndra. Sneaky actually performed pretty well on the Caitlyn, as you're going to see him literally 3-shot the Rek'Sai, thanks to a couple of headshot crits, but it was still Caps doing insane amounts of damage. And Mickey on this Blitzcrank, he had a bit of a tough game on Recon against Hong Kong Attitude, and it was maybe even more rough on the Blitzcrank here, rocking about a 6% accuracy rate on those rocket grabs. He died a lot, but Perks cleans this one up on the Kai'Sa, and again, it's a double kill over to Caps. This should have been a lot cleaner from G2, but you'll give them a pass because that's just the nature of this team. They're still all smiles. It should have been over 10 minutes before that, but again, Caps 9-0-8 on the Syndra, and G2 moves to 5-0. Quick turnaround for Cloud9. They had their final game against HKA. The battle for finishing 3rd in this group. Definitely got into the lineup along with Blabber, definitely making his World Championship debut. First time ever at Worlds, and First Blood went over to Hong Kong Attitude. His buddy Zeyzal goes down, but immediately Cloud9 respond with Blabber's Jungle Echo. And you remember, the first 4 games of the play-in stage, we saw a Jungle Echo, and then haven't seen it since then until this point, but it's a specialty of Blabber's. He's been destroying solo queue with it. He gets the nice engage here, and also keep your eye on Deftly on this team fight. He plays it super well on the Kai'Sa, very safe, going opposite of Unified's Jinx in this one. He finally gets the Plasma, and you know he's going to ult in a 1v3 sort of scenario. He gets the kill onto Lee Sin and survives the Jinx missile. It looked like it would be all Cloud9 here until one itsy-bitsy mistake. Blabber gets very low, and the prediction on the snipe from Jinx's super mega death rocket, one pick on C9's jungler turns into a Baron because they have that smite secure with the Cho'Gath, and all of a sudden things completely flipped into Hong Kong Attitude's favor. But then this fight in the mid lane, Licorice, by the way, rocking the Jax. He had a absolutely terrible TP earlier in this game, but he gets the nice engage here and completely zones out the Jinx before she can really do anything. That is a clean 5-for-0 ace for Cloud9. They close out the game from there. They end their World Championship run on a bit of a high note. They go to 2-4, sole possession of third in this group, and HKA is just the latest LMS team to finish their World Championship run at 0-6. But overall, Cloud9, I think still a little bit disappointing with their performance. You thought they had the absolute potential to upset one of G2 or Griffin and maybe kind of vie for that second spot, but they never really had a chance. They were close against Griffin in that Yuumi Garen matchup, but never really came to fruition. So for only the second time in their history, Cloud9 will miss the knockout rounds at the World Championship. And maybe it's because Jensen isn't on the team. He was always the guy who could go toe-to-toe against the other international mid laners. Niski did not perform to the same level, neither did Svenskeren. And really, we never saw the version of Cloud9 that took Team Liquid to 5 games in North America. They seemed to completely play a different style. They were not focused around playing around their solo lanes, which is exactly what got them to the World Championship. So just a little bit sad to see them not playing the same way that they did in North America. And with that, their Worlds run is over. But coming up after the break, we still have the most important matches of the day. G2 versus Griffin. Winner is going to be finishing first in this group, and G2 could go 6-0. All right, all you beautiful people, the waiting is over. We had to sit through, basically 4 games to get here, because as soon as Cloud9 lost to Griffin, everyone's eyes were immediately drawn to Game 6 on the schedule. G2 versus Griffin. First place in Group A on the line. We had our fun with Hong Kong Attitude versus Cloud9 and the NA versus EU rivalry, but this is what people were waiting for, and somehow Riot knew the script that this would be so important. Griffin needs to win this to even force a tiebreaker for first place. Gragas and Yasuo, we get that lovely combo in the bottom lane for G2, but the first blood is going over to the Kiana for Tarzan, a pick that's almost been permabanned, and Lahens gets the support Shen, and the early game is very much going in the way of Griffin. They really use this Shen to perfection, and Wonder, what is that TP, man? Behind 3 Griffin members, clearly a miscommunication there for G2. They clean up the Kayle pretty much instantly. Chovy on the Akali is just absolutely wrecking face in the back line. 2 more kills over to Griffin, now 7-1. G2 thinks they have the good engage onto Sword, but a nice stopwatch combined with the stand united, and all of a sudden, things are completely turned around. 2 kills go over to Griffin. Caps almost saves this team fight for G2, but Sword is going to run back, juke the Realm Warp, and then all of a sudden, the shoe is on the other foot, and the chase begins as 4 Griffin members eventually chase down both Wonder and Caps. That would delay the Baron a little bit, but Griffin would eventually grab it. Now 13-2, and for some reason G2 thinks they can hold on to that inner turret. 2 more kills for Tarzan to engage there. Now 15-2. We haven't seen anybody do this to G2 in all of 2019. Even the games Fnatic were winning, they were not this dominant and this clear cut pretty much from start to finish. An absolute destruction from G2, or from Griffin. They just played immaculately across the board here. Tarzan completely out-jungled Tarzan. Lahens played that support Shen again to perfection. Viper was there to clean up these fights, and just like that, G2, no 6-0. We got a tiebreaker right back on the Rift, and G2 says, all right, we're gonna steal your comp. We'll take the Jace, Kiana, and Shen for ourselves, and it's an important game, so you know it is a mage in the bottom lane for Perks. Tarzan gets the opposite matchup in the jungle. This time, he gets the Lee Sin versus Kiana, and again, it's him nabbing first blood. Now a 4v2 dive in the bottom lane for Griffin, and Mickey almost just turns this around completely. Check out Perks here with the absolute slick portal jump to survive the Galio Winds of War, and that is just an incredible outplay to just survive. It still ends up being a couple of kills over to Griffin, and again, a huge early game lead from the second seed from the LCK. They bait G2 in again with the pink ward, instantly blown up. This comp was completely built around Viper Xayah carrying the game with two tanks in the solo lanes. They do catch him out here and chunk him low, but look at, he knows exactly when he can be aggressive in this fight. Tarzan plays it perfectly on the Lee Sin. It looked like a great fight for G2, but this is some spring split level of play here from Griffin. They chase down Caps eventually to grab 3 kills. 11-0 now in favor of Griffin. And G2 finally get a fight that looks great for them. A 3-man Kiana ult from Jankos, but they are just too far behind in the gold lead here. Mickey's gonna flash over to get a kill, but Viper is absolutely fine in this fight, pretty much untouched. The ulti from Caps, the miss on the Q from Zoe, and then that's a triple kill for Viper. He was getting rolling now, 15-2, which is at one point what the score was the first time these guys met. You never see G2 get this completely outclassed, let alone 2 games in a row, but it is exactly what Griffin did here, and this is the ceiling. This is the potential of the 3-time LCK finalists that people were hoping to see. This is regular season Griffin in full force. They play 2 near perfect games against G2 here. 22-3 in kills. They're gonna grab 1 more because they are that thirsty. 23-4. They completely destroy G2 in back-to-back games, and obviously huge implications. They lock up the first seed coming out of Group A, which means some poor squad is going to get first in their group, maybe FPX, and they're drawing G2, the MSI champions, in the knockout round. There's a potential you could be getting SKT versus G2 in the quarterfinals. Definitely a bit of cause for concern if you are G2, because you know how important seeding is. We've seen it time and time again at these World Championships. Jankos was completely destroyed by Tarzan in both of these matchups. Wonder's entire group stage performance was highly questionable. Mickey, they were memeing about, the entire team was memeing about some inting from players. Well, he did it a lot today, and it was actually a huge detriment to his team. So I think Perks and Caps were really the only consistently solid performers throughout the entire day and the entire group stage for G2. And if we're talking about Griffin, all they needed to do was finally fire their CEO coach. He's off the team. He's off the team, and all of a sudden the shackles are gone. This team, the entire day, 4-0 for them in 4 complete dominant performances. Hong Kong Attitude gave them the hardest trouble because against G2, they had 42 kills to G2's 6, and the champions from EU mustered a single turret, 0 dragons, 0 barons. They were just completely outmatched against Griffin, and all of a sudden, the LCK's second seed looks absolutely terrifying for the knockout rounds. It is 2 EU teams now into those knockout rounds, but again, they are both 2 seeds, so definitely a cause for concern if you're a European fan heading into knockouts. For North America, it comes down to Liquid. It's not Cloud9 as their last hope. It is Team Liquid, but you do not want to be drawing Griffin in the top 8. That's it today for League Unlocked. Thank you guys for hanging out, and we'll see you next time.